Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this week's live Q&A. This week, it's a topic that I really love. I have a real soft spot for, all about houseplants. And we've had some great questions. You know, people are a little bit nervous about houseplants. Lots of people saying that they love them, but they struggle to keep them alive. So I'm so delighted to say that I'm going to be joined by the fantastic Ruth Monahan of my absolute favourite flower shop, Appassionata. So, you know, houseplants are such a wonderful way to bring a little bit of nature into a home, especially people who might not have very large gardens or outdoor spaces. Just a wonderful way to bring some greenery in and add a lot of life to a space. I know when we're designing any kind of space, particularly show houses, you know, we never consider the space to be finished until we've added those little houseplants and finishing touches. So what we're going to do today, myself and Ruth, is just chat through the different rooms in the house, just discuss what kind of plants are best suited for the different areas. Ruth is just a wealth of knowledge on practical tips and advice, just to chat through how to look after the plants, how to nurture plants, and how to bring a little bit of nature into your homes. So I'm going to invite Ruth to join now. Get this to work. Brilliant. So we just wait for that to connect. Good morning.
Hi, how are
Hi,
you?
Ruth. How are you?
Morning, Denise. So lovely to see you.
You too.
Sorry, just
You
getting
too.
my angle right.
Perfect.
First
Perfect.
time living.
Oh, fantastic. I know. Look, I'm pretty new to this myself, so but lovely to see you. Feel like it's been a very long time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's always very strange just only seeing people in square format these days. But,
I
yeah, fingers
know.
crossed soon.
Yes. And I see your lovely post. So your stores are now open. Well, Cornell's Court is open now.
Cornell's Court, yeah, it's open, and then it'll be open fully from Monday. And then the team will all be back in next week, and yeah, we're very excited. So we've a couple of kind of bunches and things like that this week for people to pick up.
Great.
But from next week, people will be able to pre-order and collect from our own door as well. So
Fantastic.
yeah, it's just yeah, we're really excited. It was my first time to see peonies this year yesterday, so that was brilliant. But also, it's been so lovely actually working out there, setting up all the plants, and it's been so lovely to see loads of our customers again. So yeah,
Isn't that great? Yeah, and it's such a beautiful space. No, it's wonderful.
Thank you.
Great. Well, listen, we've had loads of questions, loads of
Wow.
very practical questions, people sort of struggling. But I guess, say for anybody starting out, because there are a few people who are just a bit nervous, don't know where to start, what would be your advice? Like, what kind of plants are good for people who are a little bit anxious about maybe keeping things alive, that kind of thing?
Well, like if you're talking indoor, I wouldn't go if you're unused to plants. I wouldn't kind of go and buy a huge plant to start off with. Plants are easy to look after. It's just a couple of key steps, but I think people just can get overwhelmed like anything with the volume of information that's around.
Sure.
So like for me, I would probably think about, you know, maybe like a small plant, like people are working from home at the moment at their desk or somewhere in their kitchen that they're going to see it all the time. So they'll actually, you know, be able to remind themselves to check in on it every so often. In the shops, like the most common kind of question is, how do I mind it, or how often do I water? So like we would always say, you know, the sort of golden rule is if your top third of your little finger, you know, can go into the soil and feel that it's damp, you're sort of in a good space. And I would probably, you know, to start off with, if you're talking about inside, go for kind of a dark green, kind of waxy type plant, or else go for something like a ripsalis, extremely hard to kill, and they grow like little hairy kind of things. They're very cute. A succulent is always brilliant. Some people might go for a cactus, but I'd probably not go for that if I have kids, because if you're like me and you get the needles into you, it can take ages to come out and it's pretty painful.
Sure.
And then if you're going outside, I think a great area to focus on again is an area that you have a lot of passage through like your front porch or front door. And you could just start off with like, I mean, this time of year, pots of lavender are perfect, and also they'll attract in bees, things like that, and you'll get a lovely scent. Again,
Gorgeous.
just, you know, make sure you just pot it with a little bit of drainage, which can be just stones or broken pots, things like that, amidst your soil. You know, take it out of the plastic pot that it's in when you buy it from wherever you buy it, and pot it into a suitable pot. But again, you know, you'll see, depending on the weather, like, for example, my porch, everything was getting absolutely scorched the last few days, whereas now, you know, the plants needed a bit more love. But I mean, you'll again, just again, because you're passing through, I think they're the two golden rules. Just think about the main areas really first.
That's brilliant advice. No, because I've done that myself. I've put little succulents and stuff on shelves in a room that we wouldn't be in that frequently. And then you go back in a few months and go, oh Lord, you know, and you've just totally forgotten about them. So that's really good advice.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
think. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And it was interesting what you said about taking the plant out of the plastic pot it comes in. Is that always the case? Should you do that?
The plants that you wouldn't really do that with are orchids, because their root system is quite complex. So they're in specific type of plastic container. And if you ever have taken them out, you'll have seen that they kind of all fall apart, and the plant can kind of fall apart. So I definitely wouldn't do that. But I would try and take them out of the plastic if you can. Then you can always keep those plastics, like if you're growing from seed or anything like that. You know, then you have a store of kind of that kind of, you know, plastic pot to kind of grow your seeds from. But I would, you know, then at least your roots can kind of spread themselves out properly within the pot, and kind of also get proper drainage, because sometimes the plastic pots mightn't hit the base of the actual planter or pot, so they're not actually, that's why people go, oh, you know, I've been watering, but the actual roots of the plant mightn't have reached the base of the pot if they're left in the plastic element. So,
I see. Okay, so the water's all collecting in the bottom of the decorative pot.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And then the roots aren't getting out of it. So
Okay, fantastic. Okay, that's brilliant. Wonderful. And then I guess you kind of touched on it, low maintenance plants. So that's what a lot of people were asking, you know.
The golden question. I mean, low maintenance plants are the key, unless you're a gardener or unless you've a lot of time in your hands. You know, the key is to have low maintenance plants that look well, that you know, can feed every so often, but you possibly don't have to tend to. I know we're a lot more at home at the moment, but even I find I'm nearly kind of busier because of, you know, everyone's at home at the same time, and there's a lot of organization to do. I mean, again, for inside, like ferns are wonderful, and again, they can be outside too in a more shaded spot. Sorry, my May has been my holding my phone for me.
Fantastic.
And like if I was inside, again, a low maintenance, like a succulent, something like that, a fern, a ripsalis, herbs this time of year, but it depends how warm your house is. A lot of newer houses are very well insulated, so you have to kind of watch that. Again, another low maintenance plant for those tricky kind of corners in your house can be a palm, which you've got a beautiful one there behind you, like a Howie. I always call them Howies, but they're Howeas.
We'll all remember that one. That's perfect.
The Monstera or the cheese plant has had a whole 70s comeback, and it's great. And that's got a waxy kind of dark green leaf, but they're great, and you can get them in all sorts of shapes and sizes, and like they're super hard to kill. They actually just don't like too much cold. So if you do have a room like in the winter that you don't go into that much, I wouldn't keep them there. But they, you know, any of those dark waxy leaves, because they don't require like watering, you know, every day as well, which I think is key. Another thing as well that I think in maintenance though is that is forgotten, is that people forget to dust their leaves of their plants. So naturally, you know, leaves need to absorb light to create chlorophyll, and obviously that also benefit our air at home. But it's a good thing kind of every couple of weeks, just give them a little dust with like a J cloth or something like that, and just plain water, and it just takes all the natural kind of settling of dust within a house off them, and just they can breathe better. And that goes from small to large plants, kind of in general. If I was going outside, like I would you know, if you're starting off with a garden, don't try and overwhelm yourself kind of by going into a garden centre and going, oh my God, I need like, you know, 50 plants. And I've done it myself where I've bought too many things. And the trick is you have to actually plant them and look after them and, you know, that kind of thing, which takes a lot of time. So I think the thing is, think about, you know, again, your life, you know, where you pass through, who's around, like, do you have a dog, do you have small kids? That all affects things. And often I would, and actually it's from Helen Dillon, who's the most wonderful gardener, but she's a great believer in pots, or she even put, like, I remember seeing agapanthus in bins and things like that, but she, in these steel bins, they look really cool in her garden. But she's a great believer in kind of even start off your plants in planters and pots, and then you can see, do you actually like the plants? Are they working in your garden? Do you like looking after them, rather than kind of placing them in and going, oh God, that's going to be there now forever. Brilliant. And she's also gives advice about, don't be afraid. I suppose it's like when we work with flowers all the time, you know, they're not going to cry if you move them in the right season to move them or anything like that. So it's important to kind of not feel that your decision is like stuck forever. So I do kind of start things off in pots and then decide maybe the following year where I'll put them, and I think it's also easier. I can work out the maintenance a bit better.
That's brilliant. Such a good idea. And then you can kind of move it around and see, you know, how it would look in different places. It's a great idea. Fabulous.
And the thing is that, like, depending whether you have a balcony space or whether, like, you have a garden, maybe your neighbour's trees have got bigger, you know, the following year, or, you know, everything kind of meanders and moves depending on the weather as well. So that's why the pots are a great thing, and particularly in the renting kind of population at the moment as well, so people don't feel, you know, that they're leaving kind of lovely investments behind as well. So,
you take them with you, you know, it's portable. That's wonderful. And then Ruth, you very kindly shared some beautiful images, so I might just try and pull some of those up and you can kind of chat through, because I guess then we could talk about, you know, different plants that work in different spaces for people, just what are good. So I'll have a look here now. See, like at some of these, oh my goodness, like I really want to go to Cornell's Court now and go mad. Okay, so this little one here, very pretty.
Yeah, this is a jasmine. So jasmine is a wonderful climber. At the moment, like, you can, you know, have it indoors or outdoors, but it's actually it can be very virulent, like, if it finds the spot that it loves. So you could actually have that maybe outside on your porch this year, cut it back, and then plant it in next spring, and maybe have a few nails or different things up a wall, you know, and it'll climb up. It has a lot of beautiful tendrils. So the ones we sell at the moment are around kind of wire hoops, but then they can be just unraveled and placed, but it will actually get quite billowy, you know, when people love like that wisteria or different looks in front of their houses. Like jasmine is another one that can really take off.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Gorgeous. And then these little ones, which are just
so terrariums,
beautiful. They're beautiful.
They're indoor gardens basically with little succulents. Again, you know, the girls, everyone at work is great at making them up. So we have little stones and bark and different things. They're the kind of things you can personalize, even with shells that you collect once we get back onto, you know, seeing beaches and or even in autumn, you know, you get lovely kind of twigs when they've lost their leaves. So the indoor garden, it's a great present, but also it's a nice kind of accessory. And that's the other thing with plants, you know, plants are kind of the added accessory to your house, and they should just fit in with sort of the style of, or your own personal style. So people love the indoor gardens in that they can kind of tend to them a bit. They can create their own microclimate. The best way to keep them is to just give them a little spray kind of every week. You know, obviously it's warmer in the summer and they're all the plants have been going through a growth period. But again, just to mind them, it's just those, you know, I'm sure everyone has them for just keeping plants at home, but not to douse them with the watering can or anything, because you'll actually over water them. And then what happens is, because they're in sort of a glass container, they build their own little kind of condensation system, and it keeps everything kind of moist and alive. So
they're gorgeous. So very easy to keep, really. You just spray them every now and then, and and you can, as I say, you can personalize them. We use kind of sand, things like that. Like if you decide, you know, you want sand from a beach in Ireland, I would
clean it, you know, and everything like that before you use it. But you know, you can place, and they're quite, you know, they're little cost-effective things, and they can be created in all forms of kind of jars and glassware and different things. You know, it's a really big thing, particularly in our Clarendon Street shop, more than Cornscourt, that people come in and really browse for their plants that they, you know, they really want to create their own terrariums. Whereas in Cornscourt, people love having them for presents, and particularly say with Father's Day or male presents, things like that. For some reason, I think people think that the dads will, you know, mind them, but maybe they will. But but they're great little presents, and you know, again, they're great. Like I've one on my desk, actually, just a small one, and it's a nice way of kind of just housing a little collection of plants without having, you know, you don't have that much room on your desk for loads of plant pots.
Yeah.
So.
It's gorgeous. So it's like a little plant bouquet, really. You know, like you're describing in Clarendon Street. It's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah,
lovely.
thank you.
Really
yeah,
lovely.
no, they're
Lovely.
really popular, and people really enjoy them, and they, you know, add to them. It's almost like a little pet, really, for people. So, which I think is really nice.
It's really pretty, really lovely. And then these are the beautiful orchids. Yeah, these are just stunning. I mean, so
They're
pretty.
gorgeous.
And a lot of people. They're beautiful. And there's some. Are they yellow ones behind there, Ruth, as well? You can just sort of see.
Yeah, they're a different type. They're what's called an oncidium, which a lot of people might know of, but they have a beautiful kind of butterfly yellow look. We use a lot of them in our floristry and as a cut, and same with the Phalaenopsis. But these Phalaenopsis, they'd be a good example as well if you're going to buy a Phalaenopsis orchid. Buy them with only 1 or 2 flowers, really, if you can, and make sure there's loads of buds, because then you'll get a lot of time out of them. Okay. You know, you should get a couple of months out of a Phalaenopsis orchid. The biggest problem again is that people overwater them, that they have them in a pot. They have the plastic element in a pot, but the plastic element isn't reaching the end of the pot, so actually it's not getting watered. They love kind of daylight, but can go in kind of a mixed light scenario. The only thing they really dislike is cold. They'll just flop completely. So as an example, in the winter, we would always receive our orchids nearly wrapped in a fleece, you know,
really?
like a gardener's fleece to protect them. Yeah.
No, amazing. I remember years ago I went to Kew Gardens and they had the most incredible orchid display. I mean, the room was literally dripping. But I'd no clue. I mean, I was very young then and had no idea how to look after orchids. But I remember one of the florist there saying that you should submerge it once a week in water, and then take it out. Have you heard that before about just how to water them?
Some people do that, and again, it can be in how you fit your plant maintenance into your house. But definitely, it is a good thing to do. It's the same with air plants. You know, you can give them a little bath, just for a little while, and it definitely benefits them. And the thing is, then with orchids, when they all the flowers fall off, you can actually cut the stems back to, you'll see the way the buds form, and then keep them in somewhere kind of even like somewhere like a utility room, or even like if you've got a tumble dryer creating a bit of condensation in a room, or like a bathroom, things like that, and then they will come back within the year, you know. And often flower much bigger flowers. So
fabulous. No, that's great. Okay, wonderful advice, because I think people worry about orchids, and as soon as they see the flowers drop, they just think, oh, that's it, it's gone. But it's not the case at all.
They do come back really well, and the oncidiums as well. The yellow ones come back really, really well, and like mine came back actually this year about twice as big. So I was delighted. Yeah.
Oh, that's gorgeous. And I flick into this little one. So what are these little succulents? Is it
So here we have the reason I put these in is these are really low maintenance. So these are called a crassula. People would know kind of the greenier version, probably like a money plant. And above that then is a ficus lyrata, like a small one. And I didn't want to put big ones in because it's just to show you that these are both plants that will grow with you for quite some time. So the crassula or the money plant, you know, they can be used in if you buy the tiny ones in terrariums and anything like that. But I mean, what I love about these guys is they're brilliant for like bathrooms and things like that. Now, a bathroom with a window, and they'll just keep growing because they love the condensation that builds up, you know, between showers and baths and so on. And then the ficus lyrata is a great, again, can be on a shelf, maybe in a room that you're in or in a kitchen. They do like a good bit of water, like they can dry out, but they will grow to substantial height, you know, after a couple of years. I really like the kind of glossiness and the colour of them as well. And I like just the texture of them as well. So yeah, and both can be, you know, they will grow significantly. So each year you probably just need a new pot for them.
Amazing. And so a ficus, is that a fig? Is that a fig? Am I right? No, is it different?
It's known as like a fiddle leaf fig or paddle leaf fig plant.
Because they get very tall.
Per se. They can be really tall, and you can see some amazing ones in interiors, like, but that would take quite a while now for those guys.
Quite a while.
But we got those in, say, in cornice because we just thought they could be good in people's shelves or kind of brand, you know, even on a hall table or something like that could work. So
fabulous, because we actually got a very good question about one of these plants, and they're saying that it's in a kitchen doing really well, but it's grown so much that it's soon going to reach the ceiling.
Yes.
And it won't have any more room to grow. And what are the options? Because they really want to keep it. Can they cut the top? Like, what can you do? Or
you can trim. You can trim the top. Like the leaves will naturally, you know, well, they tend to more come off at the bottom, but you can actually trim. But I need to check out if they're kind of within the constraints of tree time. But yeah, I mean, I think that might be the only option, but I think it might be a help to have someone who works with plants to maybe work with them, because if they've had that for a long time, if they cut it at the wrong place, it just might get a bit stumpy looking, whereas you can actually cut it kind of underneath the kind of bud, for want of a better word. I'm not being very technical here deliberately, but
no, that is fine.
Where the actual leaves start to sprout, and then that could help.
Okay.
But I would definitely leave it. But I would make sure then that you'd leave the plant in the same place it's always been, because the plant might like to be moved as well as being
it might be too much
at the same time.
Yeah. And actually that's a really good point. That was another question, was that somebody had heard that it wasn't a good idea to move plants around the house too frequently. Is that the case?
It would definitely be the case with your bigger plants. They don't like it. I mean, your smaller plants will adjust, because I seem to do it all the time, but
me too. I do as well. I move them around.
But depending on what's happening, but the bigger plants can, you know, just they have a little bit of, you know, as an example, if you moved from a warm kitchen into like a colder sitting room that you mightn't go to that much, you know, that's a big change of environment for a human or a, you know, or a plant. So I think it's about trying to be, you know, intuitive to, as you know, as a human or an animal, what would you feel if you moved, you know? So they just need to get used to different conditions. So
so just be mindful. And I know that does make sense. The bigger plants would be more sensitive, I suppose.
Yes.
Yeah. And these, I thought these were beautiful. Are they an ivy, Ruth?
Yeah. I mean, ivy
gorgeous.
Gets a bad rap, but it's such a great. I actually quite like ivy at home in the house. To have a little ivy thing just for a dot of the feeling of being outdoors. Or I think that maybe if you're living in like a city apartment or something like that, it can be nice to start that kind of woodland feel. The joy of it is, again, it's really hard to kill.
They're very hardy. They really, I know from the garden, you know, even if you're trying to get rid of old ivy.
They do love to suck onto things, so you do need to be mindful. But you know where they can be great, even if you have a high shelf and you want to get some dangles down or some nice trails. And it's nice for us to kind of sell them more like baby plants, so that you can create that if you like. Another area that, you know, so do you know, if you've got that shelf that you're not really sure what to do with, but you want a bit of, you know, something going on with it, then that's what they're kind of great for. Or I know there's been that kind of trend for that kind of macrame or, you know, kind of hanging pots. They can be great for that because they'll actually start climbing out. And then behind there is the asparagus fern, which is a huge has a huge has had a huge comeback. All the kind of 70s plants, you know, that we used to see in
Beautiful
our
though, isn't it?
granny's
Yeah,
house. But I
yeah,
love
yeah,
the shades of the asparagus ferns. And in fact, even in our
yeah.
book, we did so much work with ferns as well. And Cash's family, who works as her family used to grow them. But
Gorgeous.
they're strictly not a fern actually, but they're also a climber as well. So like as an
Really?
example, if you were lucky enough
Wow.
to have a conservatory or something like that, you could kind of climb them if you so felt. But I just love the
Wow.
frothiness of them. The only
Yeah.
thing about the asparagus ferns is they do have evil thorns kind of in them. So
Really? Oh gosh, I
yeah,
didn't
the
know that.
stem
Because they
is
look so
quite, they're
soft.
like hidden thorns, and they look
Okay.
so delicate, but it can really
Yeah.
get into your skin. So just with kids, that's the only thing.
Okay, be
Or
mindful. Yeah.
dogs, just to be a bit, or you know, cats, just to be a bit careful with that.
Okay, fantastic. Actually, we have a question there. I just read the top of it here. Yes, talking to a friend about a Boston fern that had a traumatic house move and is
Oh
now needing more care. So like very it does make sense. I mean, moving house is so traumatic for everybody,
no,
but even the
anyone.
plants, just to think about that, I suppose. So
Well, yeah,
what
see, the
would you say?
plant could have been like in a van for a couple of days or missed daylight and
Mm,
things like that. I think it just, you know, it's probably no harm to place it in kind of a mixed light or shady zone. Again, with plants, a lot of people don't realize you need to take the dead leaves or anything that goes brown off, because obviously that's
yeah.
still sucking life from the plant. So I would
Mm-hmm.
strip the plant of any kind of dead element as such.
Mm,
But I would probably get some plant food that's specifically for um, green plants or indoor plants,
mm-hmm.
and just nurture it a bit. I mean, they do come back. It just needed a little bit of time.
Mm,
And you know, sometimes they can dry out a bit at the ends, but you can kind of pull those as well, and it should come back. But as long as the heart of it, the heart of the sort of Boston fern is sort of fairly fine and firm, it should kind of regenerate itself. Because you know, if you think of
great.
ferns in a, I suppose, a woodland environment, you see them
Mm,
there, then you know, they're pretty hardy,
mm-hmm.
but they just need that mix of dark light, a bit of water, and a bit of food, and
Mm,
possibly with the house move as well. You know, plants might just, you know, be on the end of the list naturally because there's so much else to do. So maybe it just
mm,
needs a little bit
mm.
of time each day, you know, just to
Yeah.
kind of mind it and maintain it.
Fabulous. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And a great tip actually about pruning, getting rid of those dead leaves. It'll
Absolutely.
reinvigorate. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
both indoor and outdoor plants, you know, it only takes a few minutes and a few seconds really, and you can it just, the plant, then it can just thrive on what's actually living and doing well in it, you know.
Wonderful. Another question about a money plant, which is getting too heavy and very tall. Can they
Yes.
be, can they be
So
trimmed?
well, it probably needs to move pot because the root
Okay.
system is probably getting
Yeah,
bigger.
yeah.
So, and then I would use that opportunity to, if you're getting a new pot, just get some new soil for it as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then if it's getting too tall for its space, like they can be trimmed, but it's kind of a pity to trim. Money plants can kind of, they get quite branchy, and it possibly just needs to be moved slightly to a different space as well, I think.
Okay, okay.
But like
Yeah,
I've one, yeah, that every year it just needs to be changed into like a new pot. And actually I kept kind of in a similar space, but it does get quite branchy. And then what happens is, even if you've it against a window or something like that, it can kind of, the back can kind of wither a bit. So it's worth
okay.
just yeah, just thinking about that really, or where
Yeah.
else it could go to.
Absolutely. And I've noticed that myself with my own plants. They really do tend towards the sun. So you'll get them kind of growing in one direction. So
Yeah,
trying to rotate them seems to help that.
absolutely.
Encourage the other
Yeah.
side. No, that's fantastic. Brilliant. And then another question, Ruth. I have two palms for a few years. Should I feed them or repot them with some compost?
Like if they're starting to look a bit tired, I probably would. But just make sure you buy the right compost. Like it's worth asking in
Okay.
any garden centre. You know, they'll be able to guide you. Like again, a mistake people can make is they can buy like a general outdoor compost, or they can buy like a
Hmm.
very peat filled compost, and they're not suitable for like indoor planting.
Okay.
They're
Okay.
too, Yeah, so it's worth
Too
just
heavy.
asking which compost, depending on where you go. They've different kind of forms created in the bags. And like, you don't need to buy a massive bag, you know, it's really the 2.5 kgs and things like that. And then use that opportunity to maybe put a bit, you know, plant food, give it a bit of love as it moves, and then not let the leaves, you know, dry out, because you'll know if it's drying out if the tips start going a little bit brown, and also you'll start seeing kind of almost the veins, and the I suppose the tendrils, say, of palms will kind of dry out and start closing up a little bit, you know. So
Okay, that's
yeah,
interesting. Okay, very good. Very good. That's wonderful. Brilliant. And then I'm just going to pop onto this one here. So is this basically what's behind me?
that's what I'm calling my
Similar.
Howie, HOWEA. But he how are you? So those kind of palms are great for
They're gorgeous. Yeah.
like if you've got an little office you want to jazz up, or again those tricky corners in a house that you know, and again they look really pretty, they grow kind of well, and they don't take up a huge amount of room on their base as well. I really like the one, that particular type of palm, because it doesn't spread out too much in terms of room, and well, because I've got kids running around, so you don't want kind of leaves to get bashed. So I think that he's kind of a meter 3, that kind of thing. So I find that size kind of handy at home, but then other people might, you know, you can get them in all shapes and sizes.
Oh no, they're fabulous plants and pretty easy to keep, to be honest.
Really
you know,
easy to keep.
Really they are. No, they're fabulous, gorgeous.
Yeah.
And what have we got? That has so many beautiful things. Oh, that was our jasmine, and these little guys. So again, they more little. What are
They're
they?
more
Little,
kind of succulents, and what's lovely about those is that they have the plant tendrils. So the flower tendrils coming up, which is really pretty. They've got those particular ones come in a little terracotta pot, which is kind of cute. But I just love the roundy shape of those. I think they're really pretty as a succulent, and I love the fact that they have, you know, the flower coming up on the little stems. It's very pretty.
It's gorgeous. No, it's fabulous.
Yeah.
And actually, I'm thinking of one question we got, and it's something that you see on Instagram and Pinterest all the time, hanging, you know, plants hanging from the ceiling. So we just got a question about that. Like, are they practical? What would your comments be on that, or what type of plant? This was anything that could dangle down.
I love hanging plants. I think for me the problem is that I think, you know, sometimes it's putting the hook in the ceiling.
Yes.
What you're going to do. So like, or if you've got bars or anything like that, you know, if you've got something that you can hang them down from, it's just depending on, you know, but I mean, they are gorgeous and they add a really nice sort of decorative element. But again, sometimes it can be hard to get hanging pots that suit as well. So I think if you're going to buy a hanging plant, I would think about the location. If you're going to put a hook up, though I know there are those great kind of sticky hooks, you know, that you can get that are pretty strong. So I would think about the sort of location, the physicality of it, and then the pot, and then I would get your plant. The plant's nearly the easiest bit. So.
Yeah. Okay. Fantastic. And then someone's asking me what the plant is behind me. So it's a palm.
Yes. I'd say that's a Kentia.
It is a Kentia. Yes, you're absolutely right. Yes, a Kentia palm. Thanks a million. And again, really easy to keep. I've no trouble. I do have to clip some of the leaves occasionally. And it does get very big. That's the thing. Like, it literally will come out, but very easy to keep.
But you have a gorgeous light-filled room there as well. So I'd say it's just loving the space. Do you know, like, as well, they really thrive in somewhere that they love. So.
Yeah, except sometimes I think it gets a little bit too much sun. So, you know, because they don't like really strong sun, and we've had an awful lot of that recently. So
I know. Well, the plants, they've had a funny time recently. But like, you know, we always say to people in the shop, like, think about where they grow. Do you know? So if you think they would naturally grow in kind of I suppose like a jungly area that's going to be mixed between dark and light. So, you know, it's a bit like succulents if you think if they grow in a desert naturally, you know. So if you always think of where something's actually meant to be coming from, it kind of always really helps, I think, with the maintenance of it.
Yeah. No, fantastic. And then people asking about watering in general, whether to water from the bottom or from the top. You know, do you go with the watering can? Like I know the one behind me, it's too heavy to lift out and put it into water. So I just use a watering can for most of mine, actually.
It's very much like, as long as, like, if you've got proper drainage, you can water from the top. I would think every now and then it's good to give your plants a bath. Or if you've got air plants as well, once a week, a little bath. But I mean, you know, not everyone has the time to lift plants out, you know, all the time. And, you know, it can be very time consuming kind of thing to do. So I would water from the top if, you know, if that's what you need to do. Just make sure that the soil is damp as opposed to soaking. That's the main trick. And again, make sure that if you've left anything in the plastic pot, or if you've orchids, something like that, that it's reaching to the bottom. So that, you know, obviously the water will trickle down, and hope that helps.
Okay. Really good. Brilliant. Then interesting question. Best type of plant to absorb sound and noise in a large kitchen?
Wow. Well, I think those large ficus lyratas are pretty good because they've got a big kind of almost paddle-like leaf. The larger size of those, that could be pretty good. Because pans and everything like that will have a lot of air between them, whereas at least something with a big solid leaf, again, a large monstera is probably pretty good as well, like the cheese plants. Again, the big leaves could probably help with absorbing.
Those big waxy leaves. Yeah. Okay. Lovely. Yeah. Very good. Brilliant. And then someone asking to explain what's involved in giving a plant a bath.
Oh, like it's very simple. Like sometimes I've like a flat bottomed bowl or something like that. Or I'll just fill the kitchen sink, you know, if you're doing a few things and at home or whatever. And I actually just put a little reminder in actually in my phone to try and do it every week or two. But I just like, you know, put a couple of inches of water in the sink, and depending on the plant size, like if you've got something like a hydrangea plant, they love water, so they could happily sit in like a full sink of water for overnight and be joyful. Whereas a lot of these plants, they just need water kind of halfway up the pot or up the soil. It's always good as well to soak your plants before you pot them, particularly your smaller plants, because even like in Cornice Court we do water them and everything, but obviously those surroundings of any shop, of any flower or garden centre, you know, are quite dry. So even though everyone there waters them and minds them, it's good to give them a good soak before. And so you'll always see, you know, like if you buy herbs in a supermarket, it'll always say, you know, soak them for a certain amount of time before you pop them in a pot. It's the same principle, because it's just that no matter how much we look after them, it's better that you do that so they're fully moist kind of at the time you pot them at home.
Yeah, lovely. Okay, brilliant. And actually, just you mentioned herbs, and I know we were chatting about it yesterday, but they're great little plants to start with if people are starting out, because it's so practical and great to have in the kitchen anyway.
Absolutely. And the thing is that to think about the herbs that you really like personally, like I adore basil, but it just doesn't really work for me here in Dublin. But I lived in Australia at one point, and I had a wonderful basil plant, but that's because I've been warm all the time. But like I would, you know, as I think about what you like in your cooking. So if you like, you know, rosemary and thyme are obviously two great herbs to have. Bay is obviously fantastic, and you can keep, you know, you don't have to cut that much off them either for your cooking. They're more pungent actually than obviously the herbs you buy cut or anything like that. Right. Coriander and things like that can go a bit crazy, but it's still fantastic to have. Mint is great as well, and you can buy loads of different types of mints. The thing about mint is it's quite virulent, so it's always better to keep in a pot anyway, because it'll take over your garden. But definitely, I mean, whatever herbs you like having, it's definitely worth you know, having. Like I'd always have a couple of pots, particularly in summertime, in the in the kitchen and then outside as well, just so I can take cuttings for whatever flavouring. So like marjoram is gorgeous as well, or even some of the geraniums. You can create like edible geraniums or nasturtiums, things like that at the moment.
Yeah, they're
so
gorgeous.
really nice to have, and also so pretty, and they kind of create a double purpose as well, which is always good.
Yeah, beautiful. No, fabulous. And then I won't keep you much longer, so I'm so conscious of your time, but just spraying plants, I think that's a very good point, because I know I do, especially in here where it gets quite warm, and they seem to respond really well. Would you advise that, spraying the leaves?
Yeah, I mean, I would always water or spray in the evenings, not during the warm day, because it's just better for the plants. But you could definitely spray the leaves, there's no problem at all, but it is good to give them a proper water. With the terrarium you would always spray, or the succulents you could spray as well. They respond really well to that, because in the way they're kind of constructed as a plant, the water will work through them in that way. But definitely plants respond really well to be sprayed. The only flowers I wouldn't spray kind of outdoor flowering plants, because the flowers can get damaged, and again orchid plants as well, like the actual leaves I wouldn't, the actual flowers, I wouldn't spray. But again, the spraying is also handy, because then you can give any leaves a wipe as well, and it would take any of the dust off as well. So
brilliant, wonderful. Well, listen, Ruth, thank you so much for your time. It's been wonderful chatting to you, and these beautiful images, and I'm so excited that the stores are now back, and we can feast our eyes on all these beautiful, beautiful plants.
Thanks.
But look, best of luck with getting everything back, and look forward to seeing you very soon.
Yeah, look forward to seeing you. No, thanks a million, and thank you everyone for coming along to listen to us chat all things planting.
Have a lovely weekend, everybody.
Have a lovely weekend, Denise.
Bye,
Thank
Ruth.
you. Bye.
Bye. Thanks so much. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.